Thank you so much to our wonderful, mostly Danish desk. It's going to feel weird when we go to Malmo if that's still the case, but we'll deal with that problem as we wrap. You might notice we're wonderfully color coordinated today. We'd make a Powerpuff Girl reference, but that wouldn't be gender accurate. So we're the Rowdy Rough Boys now. This is Boomer, Brick, I am Butch. You may refer to us as such. If the name seemed questionable, the cartoon was made in the 90s/early 2000s, so bear with us. We are getting ready for what could be an incredibly competitive back-and-forth series. We heard it from the desk, 3-1, 3-2 predictions. We heard from BrokenBlade earlier today. Might just be a 3-0, and history shows us that 3-0s are often the case for G2 versus Misfits, whether it was 2018 in the EULCS era or in the modern era, and the common 3-0s in favor of G2.
I think, though, that when you come into the best of fives, teams are often very different. We also saw like very different performances yesterday from both Rogue and Mad, both teams stepping up and sort of downgrading in some regards, but we saw a hyper-competitive matchup, and the question is, will Misfits be able to go toe-to-toe with G2, who are largely considered the favorites? We are about to jump into this best of five, our second of the weekend, so without further ado, let's play the music.
Drop.
A lot to talk about in picks and bans. Bot lane was really heavily contested yesterday with the Yuumi, the Lucian Nami, Draven, Kalista as well. We saw targeted, so looking at first picks for bot lane for G2 perhaps here, unless things like the Wukong are their priority.
With Yuumi already being removed, Draven taken off the board as well. That respect being given over towards Flakked. Poppy, wow, okay, these bans are coming in thick and fast. Both teams with a clearer game plan coming into this one.
Jarvan on the first rotation screams to me that Sivir, Draven, Jarvan are two bans I think of when I think of Sivir for Neon. If they go for the Lucian on first pick, they're probably going to match it with a Sivir. We'll see what support they go with as well, because last ban coming in here for Misfits, a lot of G2 fans in the crowd today.
Already loud, already proud of everything G2's doing. Happy with the
Flight 600.
the Draven ban against Flakked, I guess.
Respect.
Credit to Flakked getting the Draven ban out against him. The Lucian now as well, 2 bans towards Flakked, something we might not have expected at the start of the season, but he has been stepping up on an individual level. A not so flashy potential Sejuani first pick now locked in.
That's Sejuani jungle. Someone's been watching LNG. Tarzan was playing a lot of Sejuani jungle, I believe it was, with melee mids. It was a flex, yes, but I think that's for Jankos. We'll see how they rotate it, because of course if they pick Wukong on 2-3, that's just going to be Sejuani Wukong. BrokenBlade played it as well. I think G2 are happy with that first pick. There's the Sivir we expect with the bans.
That's a lot of very valid points, Caedrel, but in my head, all I can think of is back on Sejuani, Jankos. It's like
lost a scrim game, back on Sejuani.
I wonder how it feels for Dylan. He's like, technically this is not my burden to inherit putting you on Sejuani, but it's going to hurt all the same.
He like drops like small hints, like subconsciously, like he just puts Sejuani on the wall somewhere and just catches it as like a sixth sense. And eventually Jankos just comes to the idea like Inception, I want to play Sejuani.
It's like I've been thinking that I really want to be tanky for like 3 seconds of a fight. Do you know any champion who could do that for me?
Yeah. And with the Trundle ban, it makes sense the first pick, Sejuani. Wukong wouldn't surprise me too much here for Zanzarah or some kind of early game centric jungle. No, they're just going to go Sivir, Lulu. G2 gonna go for Senna Yasuo as an instant response.
Okay. We've seen these two champions paired together, and they synergize very well with the Sejuani in the jungle, and that is what I am hoping they are for, but technically we could still see that Yasuo go elsewhere.
It's true. Often you'll see Sejuani paired up with, well, laners that can make use of her passive. Camille is a great example, and Yasuo is another one. But the question is, will this Yasuo actually go into the mid lane? Because there is room to flex it down towards the bot side of the map, especially when paired up with a Senna. It wouldn't surprise me if BrokenBlade could even play at top lane too.
Yeah, we could get a Diana Yone here or something on a 4-5, I don't know, something along those lines. The Sejuani could even go bot. There's a lot of flexes that they could do, yes, but I think for now, we're expecting Yasuo into Sivir is one of the answers we saw in the regular split by SK. And now it's Misfits, who you could do a safe ban here of Tom Kench because you're playing Vi if you just want to avoid Senna Tom if you think Yasuo's going mid, but I think they presume it's bot and they're going to go for these mid jungle bans.
Taking the Wukong off for now. I like Zanzarah's already locked in something comfortable and stable. Obviously nice to have something like the Vi and the more vulnerable champions such as the Senna or even the Yasuo in these fights. With Yasuo in the game naturally looking towards early advantages, 1-2 item spikes, what Yasuo is notorious for. Can't fall off if it comes down to full 5v5 team fighting later in the game.
do wonder if this Renekton ban, well, obviously we've seen that Renekton is a very safe, blind pickable top laner in the current meta, and Misfits likely want to save their counter pick for Vetheo to give him as much information as possible because of the amount of flexes. But I also think that Renekton as a removal, because Renekton can be quite good into Yasuo, depending on whether they want to put it mid or top, removing that can also just guarantee G2 a slightly more favorable matchup.
Yeah, there's a Diana ban in case the Yasuo does go mid. I do think something like a Sylas on 4 here could be good for Misfits, because then you know where the Sejuani is going. But then I wonder, does Irrelevant have a counter to Sejuani? Is Gnar just his answer? Because we've seen Yone's into Sejuani's, but I'm not sure if he has the confidence to go for that kind of carry potential top, as he's been that rock for Misfits.
Akali ban definitely suggests that this Yasuo is going in the mid lane. Akali often uses a very good answer into the Yasuo, and we know that Vetheo is a very competent Akali player, one of his best champions, one of that he has gotten a number of highlight reels on. The question is, how will the rest of this round up? You talked about the Sylas Caedrel. It will be locked in. Of course, another flexible champion can go both mid and top.
Yeah,
Question is, where will Misfits take it?
Exactly, they need to know where the Sejuani's going. Just save this last pick for Irrelevant. You know, if you blind Gnar and then he slams like a Yasuo top or an Irelia, it's BrokenBlade, right? You can't really blind top lane right now. And then they have a good Irelia Sejuani into your Gnar. It's quite a difficult kind of draft to maneuver. Now the question is, what is going mid and jungle for G2? And I mean, I think of 2019 G2, when you see these picks, you have no clue anything's going. Flashbacks here, there's an Aatrox. No, it's an Ahri. So it will be Yasuo bot.
There you go. Was wondering if they would go for a Tahm Kench there just to mitigate any potential value out of the Vi pick on the opposite side, but of course it would mean horribly losing bot lane to the Sivir Lulu. Instead, opting to keep the Yasuo bot for now is a good option into the Gnar if they pick a Gnar, but I feel like we're grasping at straws at that point. We'll just see what they want to lock in here to round out their composition.
I'm not going to say anything until it's locked. It's going to be... Is it Nocturne? Is it
Nocturne jungle? It's Nocturne jungle, Sejuani top, Yasuo bot, Ahri mid.
Okay, I was thinking of Doink be there for a second, Nocturne mid, Sejuani jungle, but then, you know, Ahri would be top. It's a bit weird, but yeah, I think Betty's right.
You can't see it at home, but there's this like 5-second buffer period where Betty goes, is there any way it's mid? Is there any way it's mid? Is there any way it's mid? And then he calmly takes a breath and goes, it's jungle Nocturne.
Well, now Irrelevant knows it's Sejuani top, they expect. Does he have anything for it? No, he's going to go for the Ornn, just going to go for something reliable, more team fighting. Misfits have a very stock standard meta draft when it comes to just raw team fight, good wave clear, good engage.
I think the Misfits have gotten themselves a very comfortable draft for themselves. When we think about Misfits, one of their biggest strengths so far this split has been their team fighting. They work very well as a team. Their early games have slowly been improving with the addition of Zanzarah to the roster. And I think that going up against a team like G2 to start off this best of 5, getting something comfortable and easy to execute is a great way to start the series off.
And one thing I will say for G2's comp, good news, you've got a Yasuo win wall for Ornn to stop engage. Bad news, the Yasuo has no knockups other than a Sejuani Q, basically. That's it. There's no Wukong, there's no Diana, there's no big explosive Yasuo engage on this Sivir, so Flakked's going to have to be very, very kind of individual prowess and finding knockups to get in the ults in the fight.
But I do think that Yasuo is just very good into Sivir. That wind wall does a great job at mitigating all of her bouncing boomerangs. She has so many things that can basically be mitigated with a well-placed wind wall, and I think that their 2v2 in the bot lane, there's room to be able to shut this Sivir down, assuming that they get some jungle attention. We'll have to wait and see what G2 do in the early game. We're in for an exciting one. G2 always bringing something new and creative into the draft. And while this isn't too crazy, too far left field, it's definitely something that I don't think anyone was really expecting in game 1 of this best of 5.
Ooh, and we're tracking Jankos' missed skill shots. He's only got 1 on the Nocturne. We'll see how it works out. First Nocturne of the year for the LEC. Caps his dad out here and proud. He's got a bunny rabbit too, though, playing both sides. A little bit sus as we brace ourselves for the first game of the series.
He used his flag to strangle the bunny rabbit. I think he just got cut off. So
dang.
We're ready for game 1 of G2 versus Misfits.
The echoes of the G2 fans in the audience showing us a different perspective from the 3-1s and the 3-2s we heard on the desk. Absolute faith in their team to bring this one home. And if they're going to bring it home, it's going to be a lot about building these leads early on. We know the team fighting prowess of Misfits. We know what they can do when they get through the early game scot-free. G2, can they pick up the pace? These level 6 spikes are big for their lineup. Can they make them work? Can they build greater advantages early on?
Now, Misfits are stacking up in a way that allows them to prepare for this early ward that Jankos wants to drop.
Yeah, Jankos just threw a Q over the wall and he sees his kind of shadowy thing that lingers after it hits the target, but he's already seeing Zanzarah, so he knows someone's in that bush.
It's called Dustbringer.
Dustbringer, is that what it's called? But maybe they're going to level 1 invade here. I mean, there's 3 seconds till buff spawn. Jankos and BrokenBlade. Did Vetheo spot them? No, he didn't, and they haven't warded either, so Zanzarah is completely unaware of this happening. They were covering it, but now he's going to run into a Nocturne Sejuani.
Coming over the wall, there's BrokenBlade, started up. Gonna just have to flash out early. No hesitation to make it happen.
Wow.
Jankos taking 2 camps at the same time. One's gonna reset. He will instead focus on the red buff.
And we saw this yesterday, game 3, 4, and 5. Malrang got late invaded on his buff, lost all of them at the start of the game, which obviously hinders your jungler so much because the enemy jungler will get 3 quadrants of the map. Jankos can do red raptors here, go through mid, maybe look for a gank if Vetheo's playing aggressive, and then just full clear back down from bot to top to make sure his red can't get taken away.
But a good adaptation there from Jankos, given that typically we see teams... Yeah, Cap's actually looking for level 2 real quick. Not going to push anything off the back of it. But often we'll see these teams try and move up to drop that early ward to get information on where the enemy jungler starts. Misfits had set up to prepare for that early invade, but when Jankos was suspicious that, hey, I think that there might be a lot of people in this brush, they converted into the late invade and they're able to get a big advantage off the back of it. So G2 already find themselves with a slight early lead in the jungle head-to-head.
I wonder what Zanzarah will do. Will he get level 3 and just trying to poke himself into the enemy red buff? Now, the idea here is it's a bit of a mind game, so bear with me. Zanzarah thinks that Jankos is going to go to his red now because he will ideally try to deny it from Zanzarah, but in this case, he's just going to full clear from top to bot. So Zanzarah could walk there, see if it's up, take it away. If he does, then maybe it's gone. If he doesn't, then he can save more time in clearing his own camps out like the Krug. So Jankos taking a small gamble here with no push in bot will be rewarded as Zanzarah plays a little bit more defensive, and he'll spot him out just as his ward's going to expire.
Ooh, crucial to have that vision as well, because you can see individually Irrelevant absolutely dominating the top side 1v1 in terms of early trades.
So Zanzarah thinks that Jankos went bot to take his red, so now he thinks he's safe on this top side. Jankos now hiding and waiting for him to go for this mid gank.
Waiting, using the movement speed very well on the Ahri, taking it slow on this one. Now the flash in, trying to lock things up. Zanzarah, they know he has no flash from before. Oh, he's a scared little boy, and it makes sense. It's first blood for G2.
And it's blue buff on the Ahri at 3 minutes in. Caps is going to have so much mid push for these next few minutes.
G2 read Zanzarah incredibly well. The vision being utilized to perfection. Jankos and Caps coming up clutch there, and they're able to punish. Handing that blue buff over to Caps is going to make this matchup even more oppressive in the early game.
Can be a bit difficult. We see trading down on the bottom side. One of the biggest issues you highlighted in draft, Caedrel, is as we move to mid-game, not really very many catalysts to get the Yasuo knock-up. You see little signs of that already in the bot lane as Sivir can just spell shield the Tornado. So 1 of 2 can always be stopped and interrupted. But for now, almost a 1,000 gold lead in favor of G2 early on. A great level 1 invade transitioned into that early gank mid, make for very commanding G2 game so far.
Yeah, good mind games from Jankos. Also really good vision so far from G2. They've tracked Zanzarah this whole game long, all 4 minutes. They've known exactly where he is. That knock-up landed. Maybe Flakked could have looked for an all-in, but it's going to miss. Caps is going to back off, spend the gold that he got from the first blood. And Zanzarah, I don't think he got anything on this top side other than the crab.
Oh, I actually thought he got the... I think he did get the wolves.
Oh,
yes,
he did get
that's
the
what I
wolves.
thought.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
up.
because the pings were coming down onto the red buff, and he was like, based on the pathing that Jankos had, based on his level, I'm pretty sure he's now doing a clear into bot side, which means that I can actually steal stuff away from the top side. It did force BrokenBlade to play a little bit more defensively, but his wave is now in a bit of an awkward spot, and he's the person that needs to be the most cautious, but with the low mana on Irrelevant, he should be in a fine position. That means that Jankos is just going to hover bot while his bot lane gets to push in and BrokenBlade gets some information.
Is BrokenBlade going to drop a pink in this jungle? Would be really good information if he puts his pink in one of these brushes. And again, if Zanzarah moves down, they'll spot him, but I expect him to base and go to his Grump other than maybe if you look for something around top or mid. But yeah, G2's jungle tracking so far, basically flawless.
I took the words right out of my mouth, Caedrel. I mean, they have had just about flawless information on Zanzarah the entire game, making it so difficult for that buy to get anything done. And of course, Nocturne getting closer and closer to 6, and that's really where he comes online. So the fact that they've had so much early impact with this pick, that they've been able to use his early game dueling prowess, even if he's maybe not the best immediate ganker compared to the Vi, is a fantastic start for G2.
And it stings because on the one hand, if they know where you are and you know that they know you're there, you can play around it. But Zanzarah's sweeper missed everything. He doesn't really know that he's being tracked this whole game long, so G2 just playing with information. Caps level 6 now.
Caps. The dash away. Vetheo now level 6 as well. He's going to have to take away one of the ultimates and try to get out. Ariel stolen. Jankos not quite able to tick over to 6. Still a long way to go. Just hit 5, but competitive trade there in the mid lane. Jankos holding on to his jungle advantage and canceling the recall. These little advantages are really starting to add up.
Now Jankos is looking for information bot side. Maybe looking for Vetheo here. He wants to get the next wave in.
Has his flash. He can E-flash. Will not commit. Instead, just going to back away here, but control around this mid lane really in favor of G2 Esports. Good news for the side of Misfits, however, is bot lane, as expected early on here, farming very well. But excellent tornado coming in there from Flakked. Holds it while Neon busts out the spell shield, so it does get a little bit back.
So the good news for Misfits is that while the jungler right now is just being completely bullied, they still have that late game win condition, right? You know that they're going to scale well as the game progresses. You know they have a very standard front-to-back team fight. The question is, how much of a lead can G2 build off the back of this jungle difference in the early game? So far, G2 already securing a very early Drake. They'll be able to convert this into the Scuttle Crab, and I expect them to rotate up towards the early Herald to continue to push this momentum even further forward.
Yeah, red buff respawning for Zanzarah. He'll walk over there, but again, that pink is still there. Hopefully, for Misfits' sake, he'll spot that pink when he clears out those camps, because there's 2 pinks in his jungle right now at minute 7 into the game.
What's he doing?
I think he's looking for bot crab, but I think that's gone. He sees the pink, realizes he's spotted, and maybe him and Mersa wants to move into the bot side jungle to get some vision, but crab's gone.
G2 in control.
Now,
No, it's still up actually.
Jankos leave it on 1 HP?
Oh, well, no, I think he was
failed.
paranoid
Yeah.
because the Sivir did reset and he was worried about when Neon would be coming back, and he knew that his mid laner needed to go back to base. So Jankos saying, you know what, not worth it.
Yeah.
If it's up later, I'll maybe grab it, but I'm not going to gamble it right now.
Credit to G2 again for holding on to control in this early game. For Misfits, their early game has been improving. You can see in the first half, it was abysmal, to be completely honest with you. Now, second half, it was a lot better overall, but still trailing a bit behind a lot of our best early game teams. Now, this game showing us a bit more of the first half Misfits as opposed to the second half Misfits, and something we need to track as we move through this series, because every time these teams have played each other prior, it's been very snowbally. Win the first game, win the whole series.
For sure. Bit of a history between these two teams where it has historically always been that 3-0. Question is, will history change today? G2 are considered the favorites coming into this matchup, and they have, of course, already locked a spot at the World Championship. Misfits fighting for that opportunity, and they will get another one even if they lose today. Now, both teams posturing towards this Herald. G2 will be the ones to start.
Jankos already kicking things off. Paranoia now coming out, trying to burn the Ornn down before the team fight can break out by waiting in the area, but there's just too many members on the top side. You're not even going to use the Ornn off the follow-up. CC! This is what these champions were made for. Level 6 skirmishing, they make it happen.
Very clean play from G2. Caps was able to get the collapse first. They knew they had the numbers advantage, and the second that Irrelevant burnt his flash, there was no way he was going to be able to escape. Now Misfits trying to answer on the bot side. Will Flakked lose his life?
Flakked has the wind wall up and available. I don't think they have the damage here.
No. Just a little bit of a chunk on it. At least even that. They're going to lose the Herald as well here. So G2 off to a fantastic early game start, using their mid-prio from the early stages of punishing that first blood to move around the map to make sure they have numbers advantage. And Zanzarah is going to go for a mid play here on the Caps.
Knocked up, taken down. Vetheo with the immediate follow-up. CC. Senna shield buys a bit more time. Caps trying to flash out back to safety. Clean movement. Doesn't connect on the charm though. Zanzarah maybe going to fish for a little bit more. Stolen Senna will not finish the kill. Misfits not getting anything back, and now Jankos is in the mid lane to stop anything else from happening. G2 getting away with so much.
Zanzarah could have looked a little bit silly there if he queued in, because Targamas still has heal, and I think he was aware of it. If he dashed in and the heal came out, the move speed would be able to kite out the divide, and then he would just die again. So you can understand why he doesn't go for that play, and it's Neon who will try to crash his bot waves as quick as possible after seeing Flakked move towards mid.
Some good mechanics there from Vetheo though, stealing away the Senna ultimate. I'm gonna have a look back at this play from earlier. The vision did spot out Zanzarah. Tries to clear out whatever vision he can, but they know exactly where he is. Jankos immediately collapses onto Irrelevant, and the play's very straightforward. We talked about it. Caps just gets the collapse in first, and easy double for G2.
And I think that's just such a big problem, because if you actually look at the replay of that situation, you can see that this bush has just been controlled by G2 the entire game long. There was a pink in it earlier that they managed to clear out, but there's still a pink on the red, so the top side of the map is just G2 dominated right now. So any play Zanzarah makes, Caps can always match it.
It's such a difficult position for Misfits to play the game from, because Ahri is so wildly far ahead. And obviously Misfits are always going to have that late game scaling sort of win condition, but if the side lanes here for G2 get strong enough, they may never get the opportunity to scale into that late game, into their period of strength, and certainly suffering right now.
BrokenBlade will be spotted on a ward. It may look like he's in danger, but he's not. Caps is on his way, ults forward.
Ulti now coming out again. CC lockup's done. They're just making it look too easy, pushing R off cooldown. Vetheo onto the side, maybe they get to the gun. Mersa and Targamas now running in. Vetheo taking away the Ariel, going to try to make it out. Zanzarah surely now going to drop another kill for G2. They are merciless. If they see a hero, they're going to kill hero. It's IG flashbacks.
I know it's Caps getting all the kills here, but this really is just the Jankos show. The way he's manipulating the jungle right now, the entire top side is just in full control hold of G2, and they're going to push this lead even more.
It's absolutely spotless, their gameplay the last 11 minutes. The picks, the vision, the moves from mid, even Targamas getting himself involved from bot despite not having the push is always there first. Saves caps on the initial play from Misfits, now helps him out with even more numbers on his top side fight. G2 are basically playing with a map hack this whole game long because of Jankos. BrokenBlade moving around the jungle on the top side, and Cap just making sure he's holding Jankos' hand every time he wants to make these plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... It's excellent teamwork from the whole top side. Of course, like, no disrespect to Flakked and Targamas, of course, but their responsibility is to just sit back and farm this game while G2's top side kind of takes control. And it all comes off the back of that single level 1 invade. The way in which they converted that into the lead that they have now just goes to show how you can take these small advantages and balloon them out of control.
And I think the thing that's scary is that the Yasuo, once he gets a single item, is going to be very strong, and especially strong in the 1v1 with the exhaust against Neon. If he's ever left on a side lane, he's going to be incredibly comfortable. And while Neon, has a 500 gold individual lead, that's not enough to carry a team fight against a Nocturne and an Ahri who will jump on you at the first opportunity. The rest of this game is going to be very difficult for Misfits. The good news, they've slowed down the dragon stacking. Buys them a bit more time before those big major objectives like Soul or Elder are on the table, but still a very hard storm to weather.
Yeah, I was going to say that securing that Drake is definitely a small win, but a win nonetheless for Misfits, just because if G2 keeps stacking these Drakes, they will be the ones in position to force a fight on their terms. Misfits ideally want to wait as long as possible, get the items that they need, buy a little bit more time, and right now Neon is doing a great job. You can see 133 CS, but ahead of the 13-minute mark. He's taking advantage of what he can in this lane, and he, alongside Vetheo, are still your primary carries. For Misfits, that can still turn this game around.
Definitely, but with that mid-tier 1 falling, we'll see Caps push these waves even deeper, get even more vision. Zanzarah will get his red buff for now, but when Jankos and Targamas are back out on the map, they will start contesting this topside vision again, control 3 quadrants of the jungle. Again, that pink ward still there from BrokenBlade, level 5, I think it was, he placed it. Zanzarah still hasn't spotted it. Free information. Look at BrokenBlade again. Another ward on Krugs. Your top lane is tracking the enemy jungler on 2 camps. Your mid lane is tracking his raptors. And Jankos can just work with that information. So 4k gold lead, they can push in these waves. Targamas hovering. Topside jungle is theirs. And slowly we'll see this top tower get chipped away at as Flakked farms bot. Misfits either need to respond with a big numbers advantage topside with Neon rotating, or try to dive Flakked on this Yasuo.
And unless G2 egregiously mispositioned, they're always going to be able to trade something back, even if Misfits commit multiple members. Now you see Misfits 3 members on the bottom side, but G2 ready to move 4 people down here if necessary. Targamas not going to overstep, not going to over-risk anything in that context, so will not cost them anything just to posture around the bottom side.
This is the power of mid-push. Just look at the mini-map right now. I won't actually highlight anything in particular, but just look at it. There's 3 wards in the top side jungle. There's a pink on their entrance towards Wolves.
Ooh,
they can just push waves into tier 2 and move wherever the hell they want on the map. If you want to make a play, no chance. G2 can match it. If they want to make a play, they'll always be first, so it's a really tough spot for Misfits. Their ideal situation now is just farm up as much as possible, get the Sivir to 3 items, get some wave clear in mid, maybe get Vetheo on a side lane after the lane phase is over, and then try to find ways to contest his objectives, because they are still quite away from a Dragon Soul.
They certainly are, but G2 playing the map flawlessly for the time being. Things looking very good for G2, and Misfits, they're just kind of forced to play defensively. Of course, for anyone that's familiar with the LEC, they'll know that these gold leads don't really mean anything at all when it comes to these 2 teams facing up against each other. We've seen some of the craziest comebacks from both sides in matchups like this, and they've always gone down to these late game team fights, which is why, while things look great for G2, and there is very little to criticize on the side of G2, there is this Misfits magic that always makes these games very chaotic and bloodthirsty as we get closer to the late game.
Yeah, and it is important to temper because we do have so many teams throw bigger leads than even this, but G2 certainly in control for now. Jankos pushing into the top side, spell shield now gone. Zanzarah ready to ward away, so Nocturne not quite having the impact that they were looking for. Flakked fishing for a tornado there, but will not find it. So first time we're really seeing that ult not have immediate impact for the side of G2.
Yeah, Flash will be burnt for that ult. Jankos wanted to start up the Herald, but now it gets a little bit more complicated. Wait for top push, wait for mid push. You can see what Misfits have done. They say the whole top side's falling apart. How do we fix it? We swap our lanes. Put our bot lane top, and now we have pushing lane in top, and we can actually start to contest his vision around Herald. They're actually starting it up. Caps doesn't have TP just yet. Jankos is basing, so this will be the second neutral objective going over to Misfits. They got the second dragon. They say that Jankos stops his base. He might think that, hang on a second, Misfits are doing this.
Can we stop it?
BrokenBlade has TP, so it is irrelevant.
Relevant now going to TP fully commit to this. G2 at least getting that major cooldown out, leaving bot lane tower unattended for now. Seems like G2 happy with that exchange, saying, hey, we will take some bot side tower damage in exchange for the Herald inside the TP.
Oh, so they're actually going to use this top. I wondered if they were actually going to use this mid to try and alleviate some of the pressure that this mid jungle from G2 has been putting down. But they're saying, no, we want to get this immediate advantage while we can. We know that BrokenBlade is pushing in bot. And because we have 4 members top, they should be able to push this all the way down to the tier 2.
Without Nocturne and 4 members grouped here, it's going to be very hard for G2 to stop the tools that they have available. Flakked waiting in the brush, going to make sure the second charge does not come through alongside Targamas. So only that one tower taken down. BrokenBlade looking to make it a trade on the bottom side. No TPs really to respond unless Vetheo wants to TP bot lane, but it seems like they're just willing to give that up in this case.
Yeah, they were down on tempo, I think, so they just wanted to crack open that top tier 1 base and be in time for Drake. Irrelevant to use the TP, so you don't really want to TP in expecting a fight, then just recall on the spot. It's better to just use that TP to find a play. When Nocturne ult is down, Caps will get the blue, push out in top from Flakked. Now we'll see G2 group up towards this dragon, because I think their comp really wants to fight when you've got things like the shield bow already on the Yasuo. You've got this sizable gold lead on your mid-jungle top side. You want to TP in, there's BrokenBlade on bot. Get these waves in, 10 seconds on the objective. Misfits are first, but G2 have a hell of a lot of engage.
Okay, so we get an opportunity to look back at the items. Ooh, no time. Fight is starting off.
Nocturne, where's it going to go? Ornn now blown. It's going to knock it back, but it's immediately going to get wind wall. That's the follow-up. The entire team now diving in. Caps up to the backside. Unstoppable on the front line. Vetheo, Neon untouched, dishing out damage. Only a single item, but it's Flakked off to the side, fishing for 1 kill, looking to finish the job. Vetheo now dashing, running for his life, sprinting away, but he will get finished in the backside. The Yasuo popping off. The 1-item spike we were waiting for. Neon running. The spell shield is going to block, but it's not the charm that he blocks. Caps in the way, and he has the flash. Really fully commit for this. The sidestep is clean. Neon cleansing out of that one, the Ignite now ticking, but he will walk away, or will he? No! Unstoppable! Leandries finishes it! Oh, it's an absolute whitewash. Misfits obliterated. They wanted to fight in the pit. They wanted a fair fight, but they will not find it.
And Caps will be the benefactor of all these kills. 10 kills to 0. G2 just wipe Misfits off the map and continue to dominate game 1.
Yeah, unbelievable team fight from G2. Caps stepping up, not missing a single beat in this fight. It's Zanzarah who kicks this off against BrokenBlade, realizes he has to flash away, but then it's when Jankos goes in. The Ornn knockup misses because of the wind wall, but then the knockup from Irrelevant doesn't look too bad. It allows Neon to get a little bit of damage out, but the damage from G2 is just way too high. Zanzarah has to flash away, Irrelevant's already dead, and then allows Caps to get these resets to start moving forwards. Vetheo tries to peel for his jungler, but he ends up running into the carries of G2, and then it's just a Cap show from there onwards.
It's interesting how that fight was basically just a stock standard front to back, but G2's crowd control was landing, whereas Misfits just wasn't. Irrelevant did what he could to set up his team for success, but even when he did it, the damage just wasn't coming through from the side of Misfits. The Sylas was forced out very quickly, the Sivir just wasn't hitting as hard as he would have liked to, and G2 just clean sweep the fight.
And I think in a fight when you're that far down, every cooldown is super, super impactful. And there's a world where Sivir has 3 items where windwalling the Ornn ult could lose you the fight. But when they're this far ahead, when Sivir's on 1.5 items, you can take away that major form of CC, and it really stops all of Misfits' potential follow-up, because BrokenBlade, still far ahead of the clock in terms of tankiness, they cannot get through him to get to Targamas, to get to Caps, and then they just get to leap into the backline.
Very tough game for Misfits now. Regular season G2 is one thing, playoffs G2 is another, playoffs Caps is another. 100% kill participation right now. Looking for a play on the BrokenBlade here, Misfits.
Locked up, BrokenBlade now on the retreat here. Zanzarah trying to finish the job. BrokenBlade knocked up, should be taken out here on this one. Stolen away ultimate, Vetheo gonna finish it. 1 pick traded back, objective bounties up and on the map.
Misfits on the board, but they're going to lose a top tier 1 for that. They had to use 5 members and 5 ultimates to kill a Sejuani, so of course they're going to lose out on other sides of the map. Good punish there by G2, good play by Misfits. We'll see if Vetheo fancies himself a fight up against Flakked here, but with his team in base or in mid with no ults to help him, he's just going to have to catch this wave.
I'm not even sure he wins that 1v1 at this point. Like, Flakked feels very strong right now. And I respect Misfits for trying to find a pick, doing what they can to get back into the game, but G2 are not going to allow this game to slow down. They're going to start off the Baron.
20-minute Baron just started up just like that. They've got a little bit of vision to work with. Zanzarah completely unaware. I don't think Misfits have any clue. There's the blue orb, 6k HP. Zanzarah has smite. Does Caps just jump over the wall here and zone him away, I wonder?
TP coming in, they need to go if they're going to go now. Can they steal his way? This is how they can bring it back. They're trying to go, he gets it! Oh, Misfits! Waiting on a miracle, and they're going to find it now. Caps pushing for a little bit more, but is he the one who has overstayed? Misfits taking away, not only is it an objective bounty, it's the Baron buff to boot. G2 throwing so much out the window. Neon now trying to sidestep, needs to get away. Clean spell shield means he's going to walk away. 6k gold lead for G2, but they throw the Baron away.
So the idea behind the Baron was good,
but the moment that they got spotted is when they needed to disengage. And the fact that they disengage at 2k HP means that Misfits are just like, well, okay, cool, thanks for the leash, bro, we'll finish that for you. Zanzarah dives in, takes the smite, and Misfits are saying, you know what, we'll happily take that trade any day of the week.
Yeah, there's 3 outcomes there. 1, Caps jumps over the wall and tries to fight Zanzarah while they finish. 2, they full commit and just try to get a 50-50 in G2's hands where they're actually having multiple members damaging it along with the smite. Or number 3, Zanzarah just comes in and steals it. G2 were slightly indecisive when it was 1.5 HP. It's really difficult to just back away from a Baron at that because Misfits will just commit. That's their miracle.
Would you say that they did a bit of a BDS during the regular season? I'm just saying. Wow. You know, they did. Now, G2 on the attack once again.
BrokenBlade. Forward. Taking away these Baron buffs is big. Right now, mostly what these Baron buffs do is buy time, and that time can get taken away very quickly if they get picked off. Caps now leaping forward. Senna ult just to do a little bit more damage. Mersa locked up and taken down off to the side. Caps now godlike. G2 making sure to cement their advantage further in the top side.
It's a good pick by G2 to slow the top push down, but I think the bot push is where the pressure is for Misfits because they have objective bounties. They got an objective bounty on the Baron. They're going to get an objective bounty on this bot tier 1. So despite Mersa losing his life, I think Misfits come up slightly ahead. I mean, when the team has Baron, it's very hard to get winning plays against it, even if they are behind. But there's another objective bounty for Misfits who aren't out of this game just yet.
I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, you lost your support, but you got that tower in exchange. And you can see that off the Baron power play, Misfits, they're still 1.7k up.
Yeah.
Like, this is only a net game for Misfits, and they're buying more time. This Sivir is slowly working towards a 3rd item. And while, of course, Flakked still has the Infinity Edge right now, it's one of those things where you look, and Misfits now have a very clear window back into this game.
The toughest task for Misfits now is the dragon stacking. 25 seconds on the spawn. G2 are going to contest mid waves, walk into this dragon pit, and it's the 5v5 all over again. Are Misfits more well prepared for this fight than they were last time? Yes, but they're up against a G2 comp that spikes exactly at this time in the game.
I would consider even just giving it up and instead trying to play for that tier 2 in the top lane, or maybe even the tier 1 in mid. Instead, just try and get more gold into your back pocket because you can afford to lose this trade.
I think a Vetheo TP top here, I wouldn't mind it too much. Just TP on this wave, buff up the wave with the last 20 seconds of the Baron buff and try to get that tier 2. I think Vedius right there because they're just walking into their own demise here. If they try to contest it, I have to feel G2 will have so many angles of engage, and Neon doesn't have that Infinity Edge yet, but looks like Misfits are confident. They're going to push in this mid wave. They're going to move into this dragon pit. You have to imagine Vetheo trying to zone away Caps, get his ultimate
now
maybe.
Locked up. Ulti coming out. Traded for Wind Wall. Misfits want to go, they need to go now. That cooldown's going to be back up in a second. Vetheo now caught out. Paranoia coming in. Zanzarah debating where does he go. What can he even see? Locked down on the mid laner. Taken out. No Zanyas for Vetheo. Caps now on the hunt. This man unstoppable, about to be legendary. Another kill coming down. Flakked will not go down so quickly. Irrelevant does not have the damage to finish the fight. Caps is legendary. G2 dominating Misfits.
The re-engage from Caps was just so clean. Even though he was forced to use one of his Spirit Rushes early in the fight, he then used the last 2 of them to re-engage the fight and find a great charm onto Vetheo. That set up the knockup for Flakked, which ultimately resulted in his demise. That'll be another one team fight for G2. That'll be another Dragon, and Misfits, after getting a small advantage back into this game, immediately lose it at the hands of Caps.
Yeah, the Baron made it look like it could be close. It could give Misfits time, but G2 just slammed that door in their face. Good team fighting, good execution. We can see why G2 is one of the best, if not the best team in Europe right now. When it comes to playoffs, everyone's favorite, looking incredibly dominant in this game 1.
And it's scary now when we look ahead to the games coming up in the series, because now suddenly Flakked on Yasuo is a threat. They already banned 2 AD carries, the Lucian and the Draven. Will they have to ban a 3rd when we head to the 2nd game? It's not over yet, but you can see how commanding G2 have looked and how good Caps has looked in this exchange.
Here's the knock-up from Flakked. We talked about the Yasuo not having that many, but he manages to land on Vetheo, chain CC, he goes down. Zanzarah tries to peel, and Irrelevant gets a good knock-up as well to allow Neon some space, but you're already 3 versus 5, and they have shield bows, they have self-peels, they have heals, and they can just run you down.
Just a really good play from Caps. And Jankos is like, well, my life's super easy as a jungler when Caps is my mid laner.
I think he's saying, you know, if we just got that Baron, this game would be over by now, but I guess we could just ace him in mid. G2 now setting up for that next Baron in 1 minute.
Yeah. By the way, tank damage. Definitely looking strong, 2k for both. At this stage of the game, Misfits just trying to hold on to whatever they can. Again, buying time is the name of the game, but they don't have a lot of time at this stage. Caps now locked up, but there's no follow-up CC. The Paranoia making sure that no one has the ability to follow up. Veteo's taking away the Nocturne. He wants to finish something, but he's been charmed. He's been locked up off to the side, and now he has been cut down. Zanya's ticking, buying him a brief moment with the rest of the team. Now maybe Misfits can find something. Vetheo bought so much time for the team. Maybe Misfits can get something done. The death ball from Misfits holding strong for now, but so far it is just a 1-for-0. Targamas overstaying. Neon trying to run forward on the front line, but that is not a Zeri, that is a Sivir. He will not have the immediate backline access. He will not have enough movement speed to find his way back. And G2 grabbing one in the exchange.
It looked okay for Misfits because of the amount of split up that G2 actually did in that fight, right? You had Jankos and BrokenBlade against 4 members of Misfits, Vetheo buying so much time, but not enough damage to cut through this front line. Of course, Nocturne is building tanky. Caps gets ulted by Zanzarah, but it's irrelevant to Ornn knockup that doesn't connect in time. Caps dashes away from it, and this is where the fight splits because Vetheo commits with the Nocturne ult stolen away, and it's BrokenBlade who TPs in behind next to Jankos in the 2 versus 4. The Lulu Sivir will kite back. Will be very hard for this front line to kill, but the stopwatch saves Jankos, and then Vetheo dies. The rest of G2 can collapse.
I will say the use of Paranoia there from Jankos was really clean, because the second that Caps got engaged on, it made it so much harder for Misfits to then follow up. And Caps was able to outplay that situation, walk away with another kill. 16-1 is now the kill score. G2 starting off this Baron once more. This time, though, much more control around the top side jungle. Irrelevant does have TP. Let's see if Zanzarah can steal it again.
Can we get 2 in a row? Zanzarah debating. The Q cooldown going to go away, though, now.
Flip it again.
Timing's not going to be great. Using the Nocturne to deny the vision, but he's flashing into the pit anyway. They need to burn him down. 2K getting lower and lower, but maybe Misfits can find the fight. Neon off to the side. It's going to be big. The Baron ticking. G2 going to grab that one, most certainly. Misfits now running, trying to find a clean fight. Flakked getting back behind the wind wall. Jankos off to the side. Caps flashing cleanly away from Irrelevant. Flakked now moving forward, but he will not connect on the Tornado. That's going to be big. Neon now chasing for more. Caps off to the side, but it's Neon and Mersa versus the bot lane and mid lane. Meanwhile, Vetheo still fighting forward. Maybe with a bit more healing he can survive, but they have too much CC. Jankos on a rampage. Misfits, it's a heroic effort. They're trying to take down Flakked. They're trying to finish the job to knock up the wind wall. Flakked! Not quite able to survive. Misfits now running back. Targamas now locked up. Caps waiting to come over the wall. Irrelevant has to get out of there. Misfits are holding on, but they're slowly but surely losing the game as it falls apart one more time.
Very impressive Baron there from G2. It looked like it could be a flip, but the Nocturnal secures it.
It certainly does. G2, they held their nerve, and now they're looking for more.
Locked up, the slow man disconnect, there's no way. Taking out all that extra range. The Senna's been stacking souls all game, 149. Don't forget about Targamas. Rapid fire cannon Senna hitting like a truck.
And overall, just an exquisite game from G2. Outside of the Baron that they did lose earlier, a lot more patient this time around. Once again, great use of the Paranoia to make that approach much harder. The flash into the Charm, into the CC, into the Execute means that the Baron doesn't get low enough for Zanzarah to steal it away. Jankos picks that one up, and then this is where the fight gets a little bit better for Misfits, but you can see how disjointed it is as it's being fought on 2 fronts.
And it's Neon and Mersa who are the ones who have to carry this fight. Irrelevant and Vetheo can never win this 1v1 or 1v2. They're just buying time so that Neon and Mersa can maybe find their way back into this fight to clean up. We see Vetheo die eventually off to the side. And then it's Neon and Mersa who tried to turn it, managing to take down Flakked, who almost gets the outplay after the stopwatch win the wind wall. I think he tries to wind wall here and then dash through the Ornn, but the auto attack must have connected. No, it was the Ornn who actually got the kill there. But now we're back to live, and we see G2 sieging towards Misfits' base, who may look for a fight.
Yeah, with an IE, but Misfits are split. Immediately, the Nocturne is going to go forward, but he's going in onto the tank. Might not be the ideal target, but it just does not matter. G2 are simply too far ahead. Dash in for BrokenBlade, clean hit the slow. Vetheo getting caught on the backside, the Charm, the follow-up. Zanzarah trying to buy a bit more space, but Neon is yet to auto-attack in this fight, and now he's just hitting minions. Misfits cannot find the fight that they are looking for. G2 just continuing to find kills left and right.
So much pressure. Misfits can't even walk into their own jungle right now, and the Baron buff creeps means that Neon has to wave clear. Targamas on the Senna, 159 stacks with rapid fire, outranges Neon right now. So every time he walks up, we'll see Targamas hit him with the rapid fire. Again, look at the damage from the Senna. Neon almost dead already. Misfits.
Forward. Meanwhile, Dragon Soul being soloed out by Jankos. It's only going to get harder here. So many champions using that buff well. Vetheo waiting off to the side. Wild Growth now used. Zanzarah now retreating. Knockup comes in. Flakked looking for blood. Vetheo goes golden, but he's just waiting. The setup's there. He's going to get stunned right when he comes out. There's nothing left. G2 dominance in the early game. A little bit sloppy around the Baron, but the rest of the game absolutely clean from G2 Esports. A force to be reckoned with in their first best-of-5 of playoffs. Misfits making a last-effort hold, but you have to feel it should end here.
Unbelievable game from G2. Targamas, Caps, and Jankos, like the trio who was just destroying Misfits, dismantling them. Flakked and BrokenBlade doing their jobs, and they're just going to take them out on the base.
One more ulti, all it takes. One more stun. G2 simply cleaning house. The game already won, but grabbing a few more kills on their way out. Crushing game 1. Misfits need to rally coming into game 2.
12-0-12 on the Ahri. Caps here in game 1 of playoffs. It doesn't get much better than that. G2 are in form.
I mean, it's Caps in playoffs, you know?
Yeah.
He's got a crowd, he's got the energy behind him, and here in game 1, he's already looking clean. Of course, I do think a lot of credit needs to be given to Jankos in that early game.
I mean, BrokenBlade as well. The way that they invaded level 1, how they shut that down, playing
it was
again
just
around mid lane, flawless tracking of the
the
jungler.
whole early game was flawless, but then, you know, it's totally fine if you want to then flame Jankos for that Baron call. You know?
I mean, assuming that's his fault, yeah, that deserves a little bit of flame, to be
But
fair.
of course, a pretty much flawless game from G2 outside of that single Baron. Even after they lost it, the way in which they immediately took control of the map once again was just great to see. And I think the G2, there were question marks around how they would use the break, and it looks like they're just going to continue to ride off the momentum that they had towards the end of the regular season.
Little to no mistakes, just a Baron really, and that's about it. Some of the team fights, yes, you can pick up kills in here and there, you can look for a pick, sure, but G2 were always one step ahead.
Absolutely were. Well, G2, they demolished Misfits in game 1, and they're on track to secure a guaranteed trip to Malmo. Let's send it over to the analyst desk to gather their thoughts on our first game.
Well, I hope the flight to Malmo isn't as expensive as the guy I saw in the G2 fan with the sign who said, my flight, 600 euro. This game, free. Listen, wow. We're going to analyze that game for about 7 to 8 minutes. G2 picked Misfits as their first match in these playoffs. That was the definition of playing with your food for me. The confidence coming out of G2, Broxah and GB, astonishing.
I think it was amazing. It started with draft already. The first pick, Sejuani, I'm sure caught Misfits very off guard. They follow up with Senna and Yasuo. There's no way on earth anyone can prepare for this draft. And this is something G2 has just always been so good at, throwing those curveballs.
But also just like, you look at the players, right? When you see the player camps, all of them are smiling. Like, not even when we're highlighting, you can just peek down at it. Caps having the time of his life, and, you know, justifiably so with that performance he had.
With that in mind, obviously, it's not that easy. Of course, not under pressure also to form the draft. But are there any elements that you think that Misfits did make the right decisions? Did they work with what they had in terms of draft or not?
It's so difficult in the drafting point of view, because you take a look at the draft that they have, and it's a very Misfit-esque composition.
I feel like it's a great draft standalone.
You have that front to back. They have the key points and the win conditions that we were talking about that they need. But when you can't play the early game, you can't play the draft. And G2, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Explosive, G2. I think that's a great word for it.
It was just brutal. I don't even know what to say. It was so brutal. Caps ended 12-0-12, I think. It literally looked like a solo queue.
I mean, Jankos smurfed it in the beginning as well. This was the first Nocturne, by the way, of the LEC 2022. We saw it a ton, I think, last year, but this was Jankos piloting it. And in a second, you're going to run us through the early game. But it's really interesting because we talked so much about the tendencies that both teams had throughout the season, being not necessarily focused on early game, but focused towards those mid and late game team fights. Misfits has stayed the same. G2 has added a gear.
Yeah, once again, and you know, it's such a G2 thing to do. They come out swinging. They have exactly what they want to play. I was seeing a lot of fans being a little worried, oh, this is the G2 that we're going to see with this draft. It doesn't really look like they want to define the same way they did in spring, but honestly, it didn't even matter what bot lane picked here. Top lane just won, the top side of the map just won that.
And luckily for us, we've got a resident jungler who's going to walk us through exactly how Jankos demolished that early game.
Thank you, Mr. Broxah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Broxah.
Well, look at it. The good old Fnatic jungler about to hype up his old G2 rival. Here we are. How times have changed. So, this was a very, very impressive level 1 start from G2, and I'm going to run you through it because this changed the entire game. First of all, we're going to play the clip. We're going to see Zanzarah starting on red buff Ornn. His own Jankos and BrokenBlade are walking in knowing they're going to be stronger in the top jungle 2v2. They push out Zanzarah, and now we're just going to have a look at what is going on. Because these two wards here are very, very key. Zanzarah knows he can't stay in his top side. He has to walk to the other side of the map. Caps is pushing mid. His top laner is in lane top. There's nothing you can do as Vi. Down to bot side with you. But the two wards that we see right here are going to come in play in just a moment. Jankos, he gets the red buff, takes Raptors, moves into his own jungle, while Zanzarah quickly tries to take his bot side before a very scary Nocturne comes to the other side as well. The problem here for Zanzarah is that because Caps is so much pressure in the mid lane, because Vetheo is hogging his turret, you cannot walk in for an invade. Even with the bot push, Caps is just going to come, Jankos is going to come and push you out of the bot jungle. So his only option is to walk to top side. But top side is covered. And right here, the second Zanzarah moves, down here, Jankos. Oops, I'm very pro at this, as you can see. Down here, Jankos, he was just about to move to his wolves. But instead of moving to wolves, he sees Zanzarah, matches him around mid lane, moves in river. Zanzarah goes for the gank, fails it, Beautiful charm by Caps. Jankos flashes in. They get first blood. All of this stems from the level 1, the planning, the adaptation from Jankos, and not only do they get first blood, Caps has a blue buff here, which is really important for the mid lane matchup. And this just snowballed the rest of the game, and it's a big part of why it was so solid by G2.
Very much covering their bases, right? And I think for as much as you may say, I guess, GB, oh, you know, it just looks like they were going in all the time. There's sometimes more than meets the eye. They definitely prepared to scout Zanzarah, and they definitely prepared to counter gank him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was fully planned. You see the wards as well. I think it's unlucky that the timing was just what it was for Zanzarah, with the ward literally timing out as soon as he gets out of the fog afterwards. But that's how it is. And I think that just stem G2 from point, especially what you say with the blue buff, the fact that Capstan continuously can have that mid lane priority allows them to continue to play around Jankos too. And I mean, Jankos, he ran away with this game as well.
And I think this is an area where Misfits can easily adapt going into second game, because they didn't use a single ward level 1.
Yeah.
Which clearly is a mistake. G2 knew this, good scouting by them, they took advantage of it, but now, next game, I'm sure Misfits are going to be a little bit careful level 1 at the very least.
And once again, you can see it. Caps push in mid lane, he gets the move first. Right, we're just making plays on the map. And this looked completely revitalized, revamped with Jankos and Caps in these games. I think for the first 15 to 20 minutes, both of them had 100% kill participation, which is absolutely unreal for mid laner as well. The fact that this 2v2 was moving around the entire time and just influencing the rest of Misfits made sure that they could never play the game. And once again, I want to highlight it, because all of this comes back to what Broxah just talked about. It was literally that level 1. Because they get that lead, they're allowed to play as they are, and all of this comes down to that.
When we were talking about this match and kind of theorizing what could happen, GB, you said Neon can be the difference maker for Misfits in this series. We talked about the comparison to Flakked, who has a completely different role, but I think this is a prime example of why that role is different for Flakked and why it works on the Yasuo. Also with Targamas, who played a fantastic Senna. You know, you're just playing a different game at that point, right?
Yeah, but it also feels easy, because those guys could have played whatever in this game, and they probably would have gone the same way, I think. I mean, Senna was crucial with some of the ultimates, and of course I'm saying that with a little bit of jest at the same time. But Caps and Jankos, having them on this team, it must feel so easy, and so much pressure must be alleviated having these guys
Broxah's
on the
getting
team.
flashbacks to when maybe he was smurfing it up with Caps.
I was just thinking, like, these guys could literally have played Teemo Heimerdinger bot lane. It wouldn't make a difference because of how dominant Caps and Jankos were. I hope they're going to spice it up even more. Maybe not to that extent, but loving the D2 draft, the approach. So much confidence.
I like the spicing it up, because I also saw the chatter of like, oh, this draft, this and that. But this is really, yes, it's kind of cool or special, but it's not out of the ordinary for G2. It's something that I've come to expect.
I think it makes sense in the context of, oh, we go full late game, we throw them into a 5 versus 5, because I think a lot of fans are accustomed to what we saw yesterday with Rogue versus Mad, where the fight was at 14 minutes with a team fight. And then, yes, Misfits would be having an easier time playing it. The problem is G2 knew exactly when they needed to go aggressive with that composition, and because of that, it doesn't matter how good of a composition Misfits would have, you just never got the chance to play it.
Misfits chose blue. It's a tendency we also saw yesterday, often of the losing team. Rogue also moving on to that blue side. What are the tools they're going to have to give themselves to preserve that balance between we want a front-to-back fighting a team comp, but we also want to be able to stop the bleeding early?
I think the first step for Misfits is going to be to make sure they have a jungle matchup, a mid-jungle situation they're comfortable with and happy with. I think the Sejuani first pick was a big curveball, and it was a bit hard for them to figure out how to react from there. Now, maybe with blue side, they can set the tone of the draft. They can try to make G2 respond to them, which is going to be easier said than done. But I'm imagining this is what we're going to see, and I'm curious to see if G2 are going to, you know, change their bans at all now that Misfits could look for a first pick.
And as a team, this is where Misfits have a tough task ahead of themselves. We've seen them bounce back before in a best-of scenario, because they had that tiebreaker against Fnatic, where we saw adaptation, them choosing blue side as well. Well, Fnatic choosing red. They got blue side either way. And then coming back into it. Now, when you have just been demolished this hard, if they manage to pull themselves together and come back, that's going to be a huge swing of momentum, especially for all of these players who are so inexperienced on an international stage, never been there. So for Misfits, they have a mountain to climb trying to get back into this series.
Yeah, it banged so far for G2.
It did.
I think we can say that. But after the break, we'll be back with Game 2 of G2 versus Misfits. Don't go anywhere.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Did anybody see Drakos